To Talking Heads goes the rare distinction of producing a second album every bit as exciting and novel as their debut album, while retaining, indeed intensifying, their extremely individual identity. Much of the credit for this belongs in the production department, which, as you all know, was headed on this occasion by Brian Eno, Esquire. It's not surprising that Eno wanted to produce the band. His ideas and theirs merge and offset each other perfectly. He obviously saw their unique, sometimes primitive musicality as first-class raw material for some of his own production ideas. Yet the one thing he hasn't done is impose his own identity stiflingly upon theirs. The tension, the urgency of 77 has been channeled into new productive directions, with the immediacy of David Byrne's writing and singing underlined by an even more powerful rhythmic feel, through the greater prominence in the mix of Tina's bass and particularly Chris's drums. Side 1 opens with the energetic "Thank You for Sending Me an Angel," which has a bouncing, clattering, almost washboard rhythm. With Our Love is slower, but still up-tempo, with that Stax beat influence, which characterizes so much of the Heads' music. Like many of the songs on this album, it has just the slightest touch of the ominous, the mysterious about it too. This feeling often creeps up in their jolly ditties. It happens on The Good Thing, where Tina gets her tonsils round some background vocals, apparently with the help of the typing pool, which adds just the requisite touch of strangeness. Repeat echo on the drum intro in Warning Sign is one of those neat little productive touches that crops up throughout the album, helping to ensure that there are always new things to listen to in songs where purposeful repetition of basic phrases features prominently. The Girls Want to Be with the Girls is a marching song, urgent and purposeful, while Found the Job, which closes side 1, varies between two dance rhythms, the snappy tightness of soul via the drums and the more fluid, gentle feel of island music via the bass and later steel drums. Side 2 opens with the familiar jangling guitar intro to Artist Only, which again has a hint of the mysterious. Heavy, danceable, downbeat rhythms get your feet moving to I'm Not to Love. Although, of course, being a Talking Heads number, written, I believe, before they did theirs, it changes time in the middle just to keep your nerves a little bit on edge. That rattling military feel comes to the fore again on Stay Hungry, on which Chris Frantz shares the writing credits with Mr. Byrne, and then comes a number which is already established as showstopper in their live set, Al Green's Take Me to the River, which gets a soulful, laid-back treatment with as much feeling expressed in the spaces between the notes as in the notes themselves. Final Song is another familiar to anyone who saw them on their earlier UK dates. Carefully, almost ploddingly, the big country picks its way through a succession of sights visible from an overflying plane. It's one of the few tracks on the album where the vocals are as clear as they were in 77, which makes me wish they'd include a lyric sheet with this album. Although it's probably David's way of singing rather than what he's singing about that has the most immediate impact, the snippets of lyrics that you do catch without straining inevitably make you want to discover all the secrets of Byrne's prose-like, almost conversational style. But there are so many other things to listen to that not being able to make out all the lyrics straight away is not a major disaster. With more songs, this band has proven that they can grow and change and keep all their style. I'm deeply indebted for the pleasure they've given me, and I love them to pieces. Genesis, and then there were three. Looking for cracks, signs that Genesis might be wilting under the strain of another departure from the ranks, fears that the well might finally be running dry, forget it. Then There Were Three is another top-notch Genesis album to be added to the collection, promising and delivering as much as any of the predecessors. It's not the defiant answer to the skeptics that Trick of the Tail was, but then it doesn't need to be. Nobody's writing the band off now the way they were after Peter Gabriel's departure. Rather, it's a realignment of musical forces and an opportunity for the remaining three members to spread themselves out a bit. Listening to Then There Were Three, I haven't been conscious of Steve Hackett's absence. That's not a reflection on Steve, whose contribution to Genesis was particularly important in carrying them into the post-Gabriel era. It's a tribute to the remaining three members who have regrouped themselves to fill in the gaps left by Hackett. It just remains to be seen whether they can fill that gap on stage. The album was recorded very soon after Hackett's departure and was virtually ready by the time the live Seconds Out was released last year. Presumably the intention was to re-establish the confidence of the remaining trio as soon as possible. It certainly seems to have succeeded. You get no fewer than 11 songs for your money, and in case you think they're moving into the realms of power pop, you also get over 50 minutes playing time, which gives every song adequate time to get its message across. But it does mean the songs are more compact, informal, and there are fewer instrumental extravaganzas. Perhaps the most obvious difference between this album and Wind or Wuthering, or Trick of the Tail, and possibly a result of Hackett's departure. So the album maybe doesn't have the epic proportions we've come to associate with Genesis, but the quality of the songs more than compensate for any loss of grandeur you might feel. And don't be misled by that single, Follow You, Follow Me, which has put Genesis in the unlikely surroundings of Top of the Pops. It's the lightest of the album's tracks, designed to end the album in a more relaxed vein than usual. By the time you've had your fair share of solid, powerful and evocative songs that are guaranteed to stir the musical cookies of every Genesis fan's heart. Mike Rutherford had the daunting task of playing all the guitars on the album, but it's one he's proved equal to. Just take a listen to the stirring guitar work on Burning Road at the end of side one, and you'll see what I mean. He hasn't neglected his bass player either. There are several intriguing little bass runs that bring a jaunty feel to songs like Burning Road and Scenes from a Night's Dream. He's also written 3 tracks, Snowbound, where the wistful start gives way to a surging middle section, and everyone works hard to put new instrumental ideas into the song. Deep in the Mother Road, which swings with heavy venom, yet manages to sound relaxed and controlled, even when it speeds up later on. And Say It's All Right, Joe, which is a deceptive downer until you appreciate its cunning. But the main writing honours go to Tony Banks, who's responsible for the 3 outstanding tracks. For me at present, although I've changed my mind several times and will probably do so again, on the album. Burning Rope, I've already mentioned. It's the album's tour de force and moves agilely from mood to mood, gaining strength all the time. Scenes from Night's Dream has an irresistible hook line, some brilliantly constructed instrumentals, and behind the jumpy melody line. And The Lady Lies has a stirring chord sequence to push the verses along and a variety of delightful tempo changes. Of his other 2 compositions, Undertow has a gentle piano vocal duet before switching to a powerful middle section, and Many Too Many sounds a bit sombre to begin with, but reveals more with every listen. Which brings us to Phil Collins, whose singing has taken a further stride forward.
He is faced with a greater variety of material to handle, but he seems almost to relish the different roles he gets called upon to play. On Undertow, for example, he switches from a breathy, romantic style to a high, piercing voice with unnerving ease. Of the group compositions, Follow You, Follow Me, we've mentioned, Down and Out, which opens the proceedings, puts you straight in onto the right wavelength, with a strident, busy riff that seems to skip a beat in its eagerness to get on with it. And Ballad of Big, which will probably be the first track to grab your attention on the album, creates a fine tension which is only spoilt by a rather hackneyed middle section that holds the song back. Criticism at last. And I've even got some more. The increasing tendency of the band to write songs that have slow beginnings and powerful anthem-like middles makes them sound predictable at times and obscures the fact that there is virtually more variety on this album than on Wind and Wuthering. But no Genesis fan, having given the album 3 spins, is going to be disappointed. And with Follow You, Follow Me buzzing around the singles charts, they may even start picking up a new audience into the bargain.